is a chemical that is just going to change the surface color of the metal. This is the liver of sulfur. It comes in a can. We put a sticker over it, but and you're not supposed to get it wet. If you get even one drop of water in this, you will ruin the whole batch. And this can is not super cheap. We always make sure that we keep it far, far away from the water. And in fact, when I'm over here working, I have it sitting over here until I'm ready to use it. It's that important not to get water in it. So I open it under the vent because it smells terrible. It smells like rotten eggs, hence the name liver of sulfur. This is what liver of sulfur is supposed to look like. You see how the rocks all move independently? This is what it looks like when it's ruined.
Oh no.
You see how it's all stuck together? I can't pull any of it out. That is ruined liver of sulfur. That's gotten some water in it at some point. And I've got some warm water here in this bowl. And then I have it in this tray just because I'm probably going to splash. And this makes cleanup easier. For my little thing of water, I really only need about this much. This one little bitty piece will be plenty. So I drop it in, keeping the can far away from the water. I close it real good, and I store it in a dark, cool place, away from the water. Safety glasses on. So I come over here, and we've got tongs that are already blackened that we use for this. Just stir it in. It should be just barely yellow, which we have a green bowl, so it's kind of hard to tell. And then I've also got this grass brush, which doesn't look grass anymore, but this is what we use for liver of sulfur. And I've got these 3M sponge pieces here nearby so I can show you the difference. Liver of sulfur works really, really well on copper. Doesn't work that great on brass or nickel. So let me start with the copper and show you what it does. So I'm just going to set it in. And you can see it's kind of starting to change around the edges. But you have to agitate it. You can't just let it sit there. Oh, the water's cooled on. So I'm actually going to dip my brush in and brush it. There it goes. You see it's slowly getting darker. You really want it to go slow. If it goes too fast, it'll all just flake off. So I keep scrubbing it off and putting it back in. You can see it's already changed quite a bit. Whenever I find a color I like, I can stop and go rinse it in cold water. Okay. So now even just another quick dip, you can see it really changed quite a bit. I'm going to dip my brush in and I'm going to scrub it off. And that evens out the color and it will keep it from flaking. So I put it back in. And already look how much darker it was just from that one dip. So you can get anywhere from like a burnt orange, coppery color all the way to near black with this solution here. So dip it in again. I think I like that, but I will keep going just so you can see. So using this brass brush is going to make it shiny, dark and shiny. So you see it's near black now. So I can just rinse this under cold water and leave it, and that's how it'll be. Let me show you for this one. Let's just watch it change under. Okay, here's another piece of copper. Yeah, I'll speed this part up. with the 3M scrubby so that you can see the difference. And you see it's still changing. It's really beautiful, actually. That rainbow will not stay. So when I use the 3M scrubby, it's actually not going to be shiny. It's going to make it kind of matte, which is nice if you're not going for the nice polished look. So again, just scrub, because you have to agitate it. If you skip this step, you can even agitate it with your fingers, but if you skip the agitation, it will just flake off later, which is a waste of time and chemicals. I do want to show you what it looks like on brass and nickel, just so that you can see. So this is brass, and this silvery part is nickel silver. So I'm just actually going to do half so you can compare. All this metal is clean. It's very important to clean the metal, otherwise the liver sulfur will not stick to it. It'll just kind of bead up and flake off later. So you've got to make sure your metal's clean. I am going to take it out and scrub it just to help it set in. It is doing more than I remembered, but that's cool. That's cool. So you can see it did do some. It darkened both the brass and the nickel, but that's about as dark as it's going to get. If I keep scrubbing, it's really not going to get any darker. We have a special nickel oxidizer that we use for brass and nickel. But you can use that to your advantage. So for example, this piece is brass and it has a copper design. So I can put this in and it'll make the copper dark and mostly leave the brass alone. It's like magic right before your eyes. See that? So the brass is slightly darker. It's like a really beautiful golden color now, but that copper has turned black, which is obviously bringing that design out quite a bit. Next, I will show you what it looks like after you've sanded it a little bit and different tricks you can do. So I'm back in my home studio with our liver of sulfur examples, and I just wanted to show you a few different things. So the first thing I want to show you is how you can remove some of the liver of sulfur to get your texture back, to make it more apparent, which is going to be important, especially if you have a lighter texture like lace or canvas. So this is a texture that was produced with what's called a lamp band. It's just part of lamp making. They're decorative bands that go around the base. You can buy them for very cheap. And I thought it was pretty cool, so I pressed it into my copper. So you can see here I took it down all the way to pretty dark black, and then this side I sanded over the top lightly with some 400 grit sandpaper. You don't want to go too rough because you don't want to remove your texture, and you don't want to press very hard because your finger is actually kind of soft and squishy, and if you press hard you'll push the sandpaper down into your design that you want to stay dark. So very lightly sanded over the top with sandpaper on this side, and then this side I just used a ball of steel wool and buffed it around. And so you can see that the steel wool actually is a lot more subtle, more glowy, and the sandpaper is more stark. And then this one is what the hammer textures end up looking like. And you can see a pretty big difference in shine. This side I used the 3M scrubby on, and this was all the brass brush. You see the difference in shine there. The middle I did the steel wool on, and the side I did the sandpaper on, but you can see how beautiful those hammer textures look, and they really come out. These are two of the ones that we did in the video. So I was just going to quickly, with this one probably, because it's going to be easier for you to tell, just gonna rub one side with the steel wool. Steel wool is inherently going to make your piece shiny. It's also going to let little shards of steel off, so you need to do it over the trash can. Not like me. I'm only doing this so you can see it. So you can see what a light difference that made, and the more you do it, obviously, the more liver of sulfur you take off. 400 here. I'm just gonna do one very light strip. You can see the sandpaper really is much different on this one. So play around with it. And then, you know, I just also wanted to let you know you can actually, you can mix it up very lightly and end up getting kind of a leathery brown. You can even just barely do it and get like a typical copper color. Whenever it reaches a color you want, you just run it under cool water and you're done. To clean up the liver of sulfur, if you are on city water, meaning you don't have a septic tank, you can just let the water run and pour it down the sink and let the cold water keep running, and that will dilute it enough that it's not a problem. If you have a septic tank, you cannot put that in your septic tank, so you need to pour it into some kitty litter and then put the clumps, scoop it like you would kitty litter, put the clumps in a bag, throw it in the trash.